Good afternoon to you. 506 here, News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. You can join us today at 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. This morning, Biden world releasing a 14-second video of the President of the United States with 5 different jump cuts in it, showing all of his vim and vigor. He's ready to challenge Donald Trump to a debate, he says. Here's that video. We've added a sound effect for each time they've done a jump cut inside of the video itself.
Donald Trump lost 2 debates to me in 2020. Since then, he hadn't shown up for debate. Now he's acting like he wants to debate me again. Well, make my day, pal. I'll even do it twice. So let's pick the dates, Donald. I hear you're free on Wednesdays.
There you go. The two men have agreed to at least 2 debates now, one on June 27th with CNN, one on September 10th with ABC News. For more on this, let me bring in Danielle Alvarez now, a senior advisor to the Trump campaign. Danielle, great to have you with us. Thank you so much.
Great to be on with you. Thanks so much for having me.
So these two guys are going to finally debate. President Trump has been saying anytime, any place. What should we look forward to here?
You're absolutely right. President Trump has said anytime, any place, anywhere. And this morning, Joe Biden accepted President Trump's challenge to debate. Of course, it came with a bunch of stipulations. No studio audience. We wouldn't want to get booed. Certain moderator stipulations, certain mic stipulations. But you know what? President Trump is keeping true to anytime, any place, anywhere. He has accepted debates with CNN, with Fox, and with CBS. And he said, let's do more. The American people deserve to hear from us.
I just want to confirm. You just said
challenge.
I'm sorry. Just to confirm, you said CBS. Do you mean ABC, CNN, and ABC?
I apologize. Yes, absolutely. CNN, Fox, and ABC on September 10th.
Okay. All right. So I saw a report today from a guy called Dylan Byers, former CNN reporter himself. He's a media reporter with Puck News. He said that the moderators for the CNN debate are going to be Jake Tapper and Dana Bash. Is that your understanding?
So we have agreed to the concept of debates. The reports that I'm actually hearing is that the Biden camp is now trying to walk it back. He said 2 debates. They haven't agreed to the ABC debate September 10th. And they're trying to walk back certain stipulations of the CNN debate. So, again, we've got to have those conversations. We've got to nail down the details. But what you can expect is President Trump to take the debate stage with CNN on June 27th. And with ABC September 10th, we've agreed to a 3rd debate with Fox in October, and we hope that Joe Biden will accept that challenge.
Okay, so that's important clarification. So the only thing that that your campaign, that President Trump's campaign has agreed to, is the network and the date. But the actual format of the debate, that's a bit of an unsettled question right now.
Yeah, we have to have those conversations. Again, Joe Biden wants to run and hide. You heard from his campaign about a week or 2 ago that their new campaign tactic is to say less and do less. And so we really want to challenge them to do more, because it's really important for American voters to hear from Joe Biden and President Trump about their records of, in President Trump's case, success and strength, and in Joe Biden's case, failure and weakness. And by the way, let's not gloss over the fact that they announced the debates this morning when consumer price index, which represents inflation numbers, dropped, and inflation is up 20% since Joe Biden took office. This is part of their sleight of hand tricks that the Joe Biden camp will do.
What did you think of President Biden's decision to gloat about the fact that his party has President Trump tied up in court in New York? He said at the end of that, "I hear you're free on Wednesdays." It's kind of a brazen kind of insult directed at President Trump that the left is using the court system to keep him off the campaign trail. What did you make of that?
We have said from day one, President Trump has said from the onset that these Biden trials are political interference, they're campaign interference. And you just heard from Joe Biden himself. And you heard the other day from his press secretary. I mean, that's exactly what this is. The wonderful thing about President Trump is he has the energy, he has the momentum, and he has the MAGA movement behind him. He's the most accessible president we've seen. He walks up to cameras twice a day and makes sure that he's addressing the American people. He is on the road on Wednesdays, on weekends. He's even used New York City as a backdrop for the campaign when he's gone to a bodega visit in Harlem, which is a Democrat stronghold. And it's really indicative of what we're seeing in the polls. President Trump is winning in every battleground state. He's winning with Hispanics. He's performing well with Black voters and young voters. And so you're seeing that every day that President Trump goes to the campaign trail, and it's the complete opposite. I mean, you play the audio for his debate video. They had to cut 5 times in 13 seconds. I know who my money's on.
Yeah, that's a big deal. Are you worried at all about setting expectations too low for Joe Biden? One of the things that happens on the right is like we look at him, we're like, that guy's a goober. I mean, even President Trump himself talks about it all the time. He can't walk across the stage. He can't do stairs. He has all this trouble. Do you worry at all about downplaying expectations such that Joe Biden just showing up to the debate is considered some sort of small victory?
There's 2 points that I'll make here. The first is that people see, hear, and feel exactly what Joe Biden is offering. They know that he is weak, they know that he has failed, and they know that he is dishonest. That's something that the American people know, and there's no amount of spin from the left that can take away from that. And it's in stark contrast to President Trump. But it is also important that we understand that Joe Biden has a record that he has to answer for. This is the first time in American history that we have an incumbent president against a former president. That means that when we look at what the future could be, we are comparing records. And that's what these debates are about. We certainly should not make it about, well, gosh, he got on stage and he didn't drool. That's a really low bar. Joe Biden has to answer for an open border, for nearly 9.5 million illegal immigrants crossing the border, for prices skyrocketing again. Inflation numbers dropped today. It's up 20% since Joe Biden took office. And by the way, he's out of touch. He did a CNN interview where he said, well, don't worry about it because people have money to spend. Absolutely not. That is not what the American people are feeling. And we have chaos at home and abroad. He must answer for his failures, for his weakness, and we can expect him to be dishonest, but I believe that President Trump will take him to task.
The demand that the Biden side is making on the debates is that only Biden-friendly outlets get a chance to moderate this thing. That includes CBS, ABC, CNN, Telemundo, and that's it. Those are the only 4 that they're willing to appear on, apparently, which might preclude that Fox debate you were just talking about in October. I imagine that you're expecting that President Trump is going to not only be debating Joe Biden, but whoever ends up being the moderator on these things.
Yes, and again, President Trump has called for more. President Trump has a record to run on. When you compare President Trump's 4 years and when you compare Joe Biden's abysmal 3.5, the contrast is clear and the choice is clear. And as President Trump says, in November, we will fire Joe Biden and we will make America great again and bring the MAGA movement across the country.
So these moderators, no concern about who they pick?
Those are conversations that we're going to have, that our camp will certainly have. As far as I'm aware, this is the first time we've had debates in a long time without the Commission on Presidential Debates. We're going to be having debates. Joe Biden answered President Trump's challenge to have debates before ballots go out, and that's really important. What matters to us is making sure that Biden makes that debate stage and that he doesn't find a way to weasel out.
And will these debates only appear on those networks? What's your understanding? Will they be sharing that feed, say CNN? Will they be sharing it with all of the cable and broadcast networks? That has been the tradition with the Commission on Presidential Debates. Or is the television audience going to be limited by Biden's demands here?
That's the conversation that we now have to have in the negotiations that we have to have. But today we're taking the victory lap that Joe Biden has agreed to debate President Trump after months and months of President Trump's challenge.
Okay, finally, any demands you can share with us from the Trump side of the question?
We are just excited that Joe Biden has answered the challenge to debate. As you know, President Trump has had an empty podium at every one of his rallies for weeks, if not months now, challenging him to debate. Joe Biden's camp's entire motto has been do less, say less. I mean, how much less could you possibly do if you're Joe Biden and Team Biden? I mean, it's pretty embarrassing at this point.
Yeah.
So I know that today is a big victory, not only for President Trump, who challenged Joe Biden, but for the American people who get to hear each record.
Well, I've got a bunch of listeners who have one suggestion. They say they think drug tests should be done before the debate. So just in case you're looking for some ideas. Hey, Danielle Alvarez, thank you very much from the Trump campaign. Good to talk to you. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for having me, Vince.
That's Danielle, senior advisor to the Trump campaign, as Joe Biden, as she properly framed this, has accepted Trump's ask to do debates, but under very strict, rules insofar as, they don't want Biden exposed at all. So no studio audience, no RFK on stage, no allowing the other guy's microphone to be open while Joe Biden's answering questions. We'll see. That doesn't even that particular one seems completely unfeasible. How do you do that? How does a television network shut down? I guess they would for Trump. They would do anything to censor his voice. But how do you do that if two men are sitting together at a table and one starts speaking? You're just going to deprive the audience of the sound of what's coming out of his mouth? That's ridiculous. So we'll see. We'll see. Nick is in Purcellville. He's calling in now, line 3. Nick, good afternoon. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Hey, Vince. Thanks for taking my call. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Vince, I don't know. This feels like deja vu all over again. CNN, ABC asking questions in a debate. We might end up with Joe Scarface and George stepping on all of this. You said, the debater is going to be debating. I mean, the moderator is going to be debating Trump. It'll be like 1,200 client scientists agreed of climate change.
Yes.
And, what do you think of it? And then it'll be your abortion and the appointment of Supreme Court. It'll be the Trump trial trilogy. I know how I like alliterations. And Mike Pence losing support for Trump. And is there going to be a gag order on Donna Brazile? Because Biden's going to get the questions ahead of time, and there'll be there'll be big cards with 1-inch letters with him to respond, one-sentence things. And at the end, he'll be saying, stop talking, and, reading the whole thing.
Yeah.
And then he'll get questions like, your cabinets are the most diverse in American history.
Have you been a member of the media, Nick? You sound like you know what you're talking about. That's so funny.
Well, I listen to your show.
Well, I got to say, you're spot on, because that is the way these things tend to go. It's just like the most cartoonish, over-the-top falsehoods that, the premise of the question is going to be completely jacked up to begin with. And then Donald Trump is going to have to navigate his way through the bramble before he gets to a clearing where he can actually talk about what's going on. And he's got a talent for that. In fact, there's some upside to him going against adversarial reporters. He's tended to use those moments fairly well, and voters have responded well to him. So in the end, even if the deck is stacked against him, people like seeing him run uphill because he's had a lot of success doing it. So there is that.
Well, I think it's going to be like Russian roulette. They give Biden an unloaded pistol, and Trump's got 6 in his.
Well, we'll see. Yeah, that's right, for Russian roulette. When you aim it at yourself, you mean. Well, look, Here's the thing. I saw Molly Hemingway express this. I think it was Molly who said this, that one of the rules that they should apply for this debate is, well, Nick, let me say goodbye to you. I'm gonna bring Chris in here.
Sure.
Nick, thank you very much. This applies to what I'm about to say. Chris is in Marshall, line 2. Chris, what do you think should happen at the debate?
Well, I've heard a lot of things about drug tests and everything like that, and that all sounds really good. It's encouraging. I think there should be a physical check for earpieces as well, and they should be verboten.
Verboten. Yes, we should make sure that there are no earpieces at the debate. Chris, this is an excellent idea. And I wanted to springboard off of your remark, because Molly Hemingway posted earlier today that there should be a ban on earpieces at the debate, but it should not just apply to the candidates. It should apply to the moderator, that they get.
And a shout out to Corey, because this is the shortest I've ever been on hold.
Well, Corey accelerated you through. You got the fast pass today. Thanks, Chris. There's Chris and Marshall. Buddy. No, but Molly pointed out that the moderator should not have a debate. An earpiece. They shouldn't have an earpiece on, because no help from the production booth, no being told, oh, you should ask this, fact check him on this, blah blah blah. None of that. Just making an open conversation. 3 people, one asking questions, the other 2 trying to answer them, and let's see what happens. No earpieces for anybody. No magic tricks. No magic tricks to help Biden across the finish line. To the phones we go. Lee calling in from Fairfax, line 3. Lee, good afternoon. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show. Hey, Lee. Lee. No Lee. Holy. I hear something. I hear her phone on. I just don't hear her voice. Going once, going twice. Okay, Lee had an idea. And sorry, Lee, I'm gonna have to steal your thunder because you weren't there. Which is maybe Joe should wear the earpiece because then he might get caught talking to the voices in his head. He might not need the earpiece for that. He'll just start yammering away. Who was that? What was that? Who did that? No, that was nobody, Joe. You're sitting in a studio. Yeah. You know, the Washington Post had a big piece on his brain aneurysms yesterday and from the 80s. Nobody talks about those anymore. They say he's made a full recovery. Everything's fine. He's a miracle. Nothing else to see here, the Post tells us. More of your calls and some more information coming up on our illustrious president. Hey, good afternoon to you. 5:35 here, News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. You can join us, 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. I see all of your calls coming in, trying to get to everybody. I've got Donna and Frederick. We'll go there first. Line 1, Donna, always good to hear from you. Good afternoon.
Hi, thanks for having me on today. It's a busy day for you.
Yeah.
And thanks to you and Corey, you're doing an outstanding job. The Manchurian candidate, for some reason, I cannot convince myself that he's going to make it all the way through all 3 of those.
You shouldn't convince yourself of that. I'm not convinced of that either. Who knows what's going to happen? I just think, first of all, I thank God every day when I wake up, and I always tell myself I have no idea what's going to happen next.
Yes, and the other thing is I think we ought to flag these terrorist threats, go back to some sort of system so that the people are aware. I think it's disgusting how they're hiding what's actually going on in this country. And we know they're encouraging it. So, you know, we have to take that with a grain of salt, of course. But it's really tough.
Yeah, they open up the border wide, and they're like, "Oh, terrorists came through." Of course they did. You open up the border wide. If you make it less secure, the kinds of people who want to take advantage of that are going to come pouring across the border. Donna, thank you for the call as always. You know, to Donna's point, this story out of Marine Corps Base Quantico, still too many unanswered questions. But just to reiterate the conversation that I had with Kelly Sinkowski at 4:30, and if you missed it, check out the podcast. We'll be posting it soon. You'll be able to hear on the Vince Coglianese Show podcast what she brought us. But she's a reporter for Potomac Local News, and she came into a bunch of really important and scary information, including that on May 3rd, now 2 Fridays ago at Marine Corps Base Quantico, there was 2 men in a white box truck approached the gate, told the gate guards that they were just trying to get to the post office because they're Amazon contractors. The guards looked at everything they had, the paperwork and all the relevant tags, and they said, wait a second, we don't have anything that indicates that you are who you say you are. Pull over to the front of the road right here so we could go through the vetting process that we're supposed to. The guys accelerated the truck through the gate. They decided to just keep going, and the Marine base raised the bollards up, the traffic bollards that they can apparently do remotely, to stop the truck from advancing any further. Now, since we had that conversation an hour ago, I've got a photo sent to me by a tipster who actually was there, who took a picture of the box truck and was apparently kind of amazed by seeing the bollards up, having never seen that before, and for that reason snapped the photo. Well, I've got it up on my X account right now. If you just go to Vince Coglianese, you can see it there. And something that I was marveling at was the truck doesn't have any license plates, at least not visibly. I can't see a license plate on this thing. Kelly Sinkowski reported the following. One of the men, at least, is a Jordanian national who recently came across our border that would be illegally into the country. At least one of the occupants of the vehicle, we have 2 that we're aware of, was on the terror watch list. And both men were turned over to the custody of Immigration and Customs Enforcement, suggesting that they were both illegal. And ICE is apparently imminently about to make a statement on this subject to Kelly Sinkowski and perhaps any other interested reporter that may exist out there. Now, there are very few places that have covered this. The Marine Corps Times has followed up on her coverage of this subject. They've written up a piece on it. Additionally, the New York Post, through Todd Bensman, has a piece up on this. I saw Breitbart has a piece up on this. So there is some more coverage today. Certainly, it's right here on WMAL as well. Some conversation about this. This is our area, and I'd love to know some answers about how this all went down. But a lot of concern about this, and as we get more answers, just like with all these stories, we'll share them with you. Your calls are also focused on the debate today, the fact that Trump and Biden are going to be doing at least two of them, allegedly. We'll see. Mark's in Virginia Beach, line 3. Mark, good afternoon. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Good afternoon, Vince. Thanks for taking my call. I think because they both say they can do this and beat each other, I want to see them do 25 push-ups first. Then I want to see them stand up and box each other for 3 rounds to see who really wins.
Mark, do you think I got to be honest with you? I think that that'll just make me sad for my country if I have to watch both of these guys in their advanced years doing push-ups and then boxing. I'd feel bad. There'd be some sort of elder abuse going on there too as they start punching each other in the face. But I like where your head's at, though, which is feats of strength. America should definitely rely on those to make big decisions. I agree.
I gotta have a physically fit president in the White House.
I love it. It's funny. Teddy Roosevelt was famous for being a physically fit president. When Teddy Roosevelt was in the White House, they used to do a game where they'd fight each other with broomsticks. They had sticks and they would get into these sword fights. And he was president of the United States, and he would invite. There was one of his cabinet members would do this with him. He would show up at the White House, and the two of them would have full-blown fights where they're just beating the hell out of each other in the White House. And then Teddy Roosevelt would show up to events with broken fingers and bruises on his face, and he'd be shaking hands with people, and his hand was in immense pain. And he didn't care because that was just kind of the kind of guy he was. He was just physically fit. And on this issue of physical fitness, Mark, there's another presidential story. It was John F. Kennedy. John F. Kennedy was, in his short time in office, he was very discouraged by the fact that too many young people were fat. And he said this out loud. He spoke at some event where he said that there's nothing more unfortunate than seeing fat children, he said. And so one of his big priorities was physical fitness. So Mark, there's a very legitimate history behind caring about physical fitness in the United States that a whole bunch of people used to actually talk about.
Could you see all the bruises on both of their hands if they went to fighting with each other?
Yeah, Donald Trump and Joe Biden. Yeah, I don't think they should do that. Mark, thank you. Mark, with a novel idea for how to conduct a presidential debate. Matt's in Winchester now. Matt, good afternoon. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Hey, Vince, long-time caller, first-time listener. Excited to talk more about this. And I just think it's interesting that we kind of place, the moderator in such high esteem to come up with the questions of the debate. I've always been interested. I can't recall anything you're going to recall, but when we have two people debating, usually it's just them debating, and they are asking each other the questions directly and then following up on, what the other person said, and then kind of picking apart, their different ideas. And I think that would be a lot more instructive than having any of these CNN pundits just, kind of craft some sort of perfect question like that guy earlier calling in.
I totally agree. And one of the reasons, that I mean, you're right about this is, look at these media figures, CNN in particular. These are biased people, and the only pressure that they feel in order to interject and to disrupt is for the Republican candidates. That's the only pressure that they feel. For the Democrats, they'll let them get away with making all sorts of cartoonish allegations, and they won't intercept them. And we saw that in the past. Remember, Candy Crowley did this when she was a CNN person. It was the Mitt Romney debate, and she dove in to try and do a fact check live in the middle of it. And that is a treatment that is only reserved for Republicans and not for Democrats. And so if you're going to jump in on the debate, let's just establish up front that you are one of the combatants and not the moderator as you're supposed to be.
Yeah, I mean, it would almost be totally instructive to watch Joe Biden try to come up with a follow-up question to anything Trump said. I think Brosey will make his way into that conversation. Who knows?
Brosey, Uncle Brosey. Yeah, I hope Trump asks him some stuff about that. Should Trump, as long as he has his microphone on, was your uncle really eaten by cannibals? Like, could you clarify the specifics of how your uncle was eaten by cannibals? Because that was an amazing story. I'd love to hear more. We'll see. Matt, thank you. I agree. I totally agree that I'd much rather see these guys question each other and just have an extended conversation. Let them prove their worth through just actually moderating one another rather than having some left winger come in there. Nuts. Hey, I think I found it. This is the audio of JFK. You ready for this? Nothing more unfortunate than fat children. This is real. What if RFK added this to his campaign?
There is nothing, I think, more unfortunate than to have soft, chubby, fat-looking children who go to watch their school play basketball every Saturday and regard that as their week's exercise. I hope that all of you will join, and everybody in the United States, to make sure that our children participate fully in a vigorous and adventurous life which is possible for them in this very rich country of ours.
Isn't that great? Nothing more unfortunate than fat little children going and watching a basketball game and thinking that qualifies as exercise. So that's pretty good. That's pretty good. RFK Jr. should add that to his repertoire as he's out there on the campaign trail, to the extent that he can get any attention at all. Joe Biden's trying to suffocate the attention. Hey, over on NBC, I've got to share this with you. Laurence O'Donnell has been going through some sort of mental break over the last few days. Remember, he went to court. He went into the courtroom earlier in this Alvin Bragg-led saga down there in New York. And when he was in the courtroom, President Trump noticed that he was in the courtroom, and he tweeted that he looked like beep. He looked like crap, he said on his Truth Social. He's like, I think he called him like failed MSNBC host. Laurence O'Donnell was there. I haven't seen him in a while. He looks like crap. So Laurence O'Donnell, that night, he went on TV and did a dramatic reenactment of Stormy Daniels' testimony, and he got really into the details. It was almost too much. That you probably it was pornographic, the kind of thing that you probably need to prove your age before you can listen to in a state like Virginia. That continued last night. Laurence, I think. Look, he's said a lot of things about himself through the years. He's a socialist, right? He's admitted that on the air. He's talked about how he doesn't like hammering. He's yelled that out from time to time. But last night, I think he was trying to prove that he's a good creative writer, and nobody ever told him. Nobody ever intercepted him at any point in his career and told him, "Hey, Laurence, you're not a good writer. I'd encourage you to stop." Like if you have a friend who's constantly singing but has a terrible voice, and everybody's trying to figure out, how do we stop him from doing that? How do we convince him that this isn't your thing? Please don't do that anymore. It's ruining everything. Laurence O'Donnell last night with a very strange monologue that he obviously wrote himself. He was very impressed by it, and he delivered it last night.
Donald Trump has insisted, after first being sleeping, that he is not sleeping. He is just resting his eyes. But no eyes need to be rested the entire day, even 77-year-old Trump eyes. And Donald Trump, who is so aware of everything his face is doing when, for example, taking a mugshot or being on public display in any way, leaves his face with his eyes closed.
Okay, there's a couple of things. I'll keep playing the audio because it's funny. I love making fun of it. But the stuff that the left is obsessed with is so harebrained and stupid, it's ridiculous. So in case you're wondering, what is the left talking about today? They think that, first of all, they're very aware that Biden is old and is failing in all sorts of meaningful ways. So they think that they can engineer some story that Trump is sleepy Trump and that he's falling asleep in court all the time because he's so old and he's senile. This is their effort. They're trying to cook it up in lefty world. And apparently there were some reporters yesterday who were claiming that in the courtroom that Trump would close his eyes from time to time during all of this testimony. Now, if he was closing his eyes, he wouldn't be alone. The jury was reportedly yawning at length yesterday for so much of this. And I believe most of the jurors, if not all of them, are substantially older than both Trump and Biden, like falling asleep during some of the tedious testimony. Laurence O'Donnell thinks this is a big deal, and now then he says that part about the mugshot. He's angry that the Trump mugshot went well. Do you hear that? He's angry that Trump's mugshot in Fulton County, Georgia, only made people think that guy was like gangster or something. Like he's like, damn it, foiled again. We thought if we got the mugshot that we had him dead to rights. Instead, the mugshot only made Trump more popular. So on the left, they think that Trump practiced his facial expressions or something in order to succeed and defeat their latest effort to take him down. This is the deranged conspiracy thinking going on at MSNBC.
Aware of everything his face is doing when, for example, taking a mugshot or being on public display in any way, leaves his face with his eyes closed. In tortured, elderly shapes when he drifts off into his closed eye space. His mouth shifts from its preferred scowl to the look of a collapsing old building. The mouth loses all shape. The lips become unrecognizable by the wrinkled curves that they take under those closed eyes that stay closed today longer than they have ever stayed closed in that courtroom.
He is the crappiest writer I've ever heard of. Any creative writing teachers out there who are listening to this, rolling your eyes deeply and thinking about what a low grade you would assign to this abysmal paper?
More than 10 minutes at a time. The old man sitting there in the defendant's chair, head tilted back to the right, eyes closed, made it look like a trial at a nursing home. If he were found like that in his chair at a table in the nursing home during lunch, he would be immediately checked for signs of life.
So in case you're wondering why your left-wing friends and neighbors are so deeply uninformed, look no further than Laurence O'Donnell practicing his creative writing exercises on them each night. It's like crazy. All right, one more thing for you. Here, let me go to the phones. I've got John in Rixieville here, line one. John, good afternoon. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Yeah. Hey, Vince. Just going to add a quick note about Theodore Roosevelt and boxing. He was on the boxing team at Harvard. And when he was president, he had a boxing ring set up in the basement of the White House and used to invite young military officers to come and box with him.
Which I think, I'm trying to remember what incident it was, but wasn't he going partially blind in one eye? I think perhaps from boxing.
Yes, you were exactly right. It was from boxing. He got hit in the side of the head, and he lost most of the sight in one of his eyes.
Yeah, and he never complained about it. He was not a complainer. He would be covered in bruises, all sorts of damage, and he was just at the next event shaking hands, kissing babies, and moving on. Kind of a cool guy in so many ways. John, thank you. That's a good piece of history.
Very cool guy.
Well, tomorrow, Michael Cohen returns to the stand in that trial in New York. That'll be fun as Trump's lawyers begin to rip him limb from limb. We'll bring you the updates on that from the courtroom. Also, Congressman Andy Biggs is going to be here from the Center for Immigration Studies. Todd Bensman, he's been all over this box truck with a terror watch lister at Quantico Marine Corps Base. As we get more details on that, we'll share them with you here on WMAL. And coming up next, our friend, the great one, Mark Levin. Sit tight. He's got a lot to say, and you should listen. It's fantastic. It's ahead.